border. That distance doesn't mean events on our southern border don't affect Hoosiers in Warsaw and communities across our state. Last month, I met with local law enforcement officials in the Warsaw area, and they shared some heart-wrenching stories with me. I heard about police arriving at a family's home. Both parents had overdosed. One was unconscious. All had these terrible experiences right in front of their kids. They told me about emergency calls, the voice on the other end crying that a child had gone into cardiac arrest. In these situations and too many others, they suspected the same source, fentanyl. The fentanyl entering the United States through our southern border is hitting this northern Indiana community hard. It's hitting all of our communities. The opioid epidemic, and it is that, is the worst drug crisis in America's history. In the decade between 1999 and 2020, it killed over 564,000 of our countrymen and women. The number of lives lost is so great, it brought America's life expectancy down to a 25-year low. And now, because of fentanyl, this crisis is growing worse. 2 milligrams of this synthetic opioid are enough to kill, and it's killing more young Americans than cancer, more than car accidents, more than COVID. There's enough of it reaching our country to kill every single American, many times over. Its point of origin is Mexico, and its point of entry into America is our southern border. The same border that 4.9 million illegal immigrants have crossed since President Biden took office. His administration argues that because large quantities of fentanyl have been seized at our official ports of entry, that the overdose epidemic is somehow unrelated to the broken border. But if we don't know who's crossing our border, how do we know what they're bringing across it? The tragedy is not just taking place on our side of that border. President Biden's lax immigration policy send out a deadly welcome sign to migrants in search of opportunity. Drawn to it, they fall in with or place their children in the hands of merciless human smugglers. They're packed into and suffocate in trucks. They attempt a treacherous crossing of the Rio Grande and end up swept away by its currents. The bodies of 890 migrants were discovered last year along the southern border. Police on the American side are diverted from law enforcement while recovering the bodies. Funeral homes in Mexico don't have enough refrigerators to store them in. America is a welcoming country. It's also a country of laws. The two are not incompatible. And what good is a country without a border? You know, it's been said many times, Madam President, by many people, but I'll say it again. A nation that cannot control its borders is not a nation. We can secure our border. We can demand to know who and what is crossing it while also welcoming those who seek to start better lives in America, legally. Americans in places like Warsaw, Indiana, are looking at this chaos on our southern border in anger. And they're looking to us, right here in the United States Senate, for help. They're asking us to stop the flow of drugs poisoning our people, to enforce our immigration laws, to build a border barrier, to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy, to do whatever it takes to end this crisis, to do what the president and too many in his party will not. Too much time and too many lives have been lost. So let's not let the American people down. Let's secure the border. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor. And I note the absence of a quorum.